The brain, the gut, the heart, and the nervous system are being shown to be the predictors of our health. If having real health is of interest to you, please listen to learn more, and welcome to the Brain Gut Connection podcast. Your host, Dave Bredhauer, will guide you through how everything inside us is connected, from our brain to our heart to our gut, how they all communicate, and how important your immune system is to this entire process. The Brain Gut Connection podcast. Let us get right into today's episode.
It's time for a quick gut check, literally. Have you ever wondered if there's a direct line from your brain to your gut? Spoiler alert, there is. And we've got all of the inside scoop waiting for you in the Brain Gut Connection newsletter. Every month, we dive deep into the stuff no one else is talking about, or maybe they just don't have the guts to. We're covering the real deal behind what's happening in that brain-gut highway, unpacking the science, the myths, and the little tricks that can make you feel a whole lot better. You'll find answers to questions like, is my gut messing with my mood? Or can what I eat last night really affect my focus today? Spoiler alert, again, it can. So if you're ready to keep your brain and gut in harmony and maybe discover why they argue sometimes, head on over to www.braingutconnect.com/subscribe to sign up for the Brain Gut Connection newsletter. Your brain, your gut, and trust me on this, your whole body will thank you. Go on, give your gut a break. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Brain Gut Connection podcast. I'm your host, Dave Bredhauer, and today we've got an incredible guest with us, someone who spent the last 18 years diving deep into the world of alternative health. Joining us today is Christian Elliot, co-owner of Healing United, and a man with over 20,000 hours of hands-on coaching in fitness, nutrition, and life. Christian's expertise in detoxification will blow your mind as we talk about how toxins affect our bodies, our guts, and of course, our brains. Christian is here to demystify the world of detoxing, sharing everything from the most common detox mistakes to the most effective ways to cleanse your body and mind. So let's dive into some straight talk on detoxing and gut health. Now stick around to the end where we'll talk about how to get in touch with Christian and learn more about his incredible work with Healing United. So Christian, you've been in the alternative health space for let me back up. Welcome, Christian, to the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I get off on tangents sometimes. So I appreciate you showing up, man. I'm excited to learn more about detox. You never know what you don't know, right?
Right.
So if you would, you've been at this for 18 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing late 20s is when you started?
That is, yes.
So what got you, what motivated you to start down this road?
Well, I like a lot of us, I guess, my health was giving me symptoms or indications that if I didn't get my act together, I was going to look at a lot longer runway of aches and pains and frequent colds and things that I just didn't feel I needed to be living with. So I'm 27 when I got married. My body's starting to break down. And I had been to probably half a dozen medical doctors, and they offer you medications that give you different side effects. Fortunately, they didn't offer me cortisone or surgery. They're like, you're just too young. I don't think you're that broken. Today, I think they would have. But that journey just forced me to say, what else do I not know? If I can't find an answer in the medical world, where can I go? So I went to a chiropractor. He turned my paradigm upside down of health, taught me about nutrition, taught me about movement, taught me about structural alignment and how the kinks we have in our bodies are creating these problems as much as they are, related to toxins and other things. So he taught me about just the toxicity of pharmaceuticals, which opened my mind to, wait, these are poisonous? Like nobody told me that. This was supposed to be a pill that helped me, not poisoned me. And then 2006, I read the book, The 100-Year Lie, which the subtitle at that point was How Food and Medicine Are Destroying Our Health. And it just rewound 100 years to the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906 that showed basically we were betrayed by the promised better living through chemistry, and we have poisoned ourselves into oblivion. And so that was really my waypoint into like, whoa, there is a massive toxicity problem that we are all dealing with. And I wish I could say his clarion call or Silent Spring decades before that had woken us up and we had arrested that trajectory, but it's only gotten worse since then. And so I've just become a student of it.
Sorry, let's go back. So what was going on in your life? You said you were feeling like you were breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
And you were just learning about movement. So you weren't physically active back then?
No, I was. That's part of why I kind of thought I was more invincible. So I grew up watching the Rocky movies and wanting to be the muscular guy and so on, and figuring out that, that has to be the way to get the ladies, right? So I took what I saw on TV or what I imagined the guys did to get buff, and I just kind of I'd watch people in the gym and try to duplicate that and just didn't know what I was doing. So I ended up hurting myself. I developed, there's a kind of a trifecta of things that came together. I was pressure washing. I had that as a business, and I was heavy hoses on wet ladders, started really messing up my structure, my skeleton, my shoulder in particular. And then not knowing what I was doing with weightlifting and waiting tables, always carrying plates on the same side. And so they culminated into a body that was just twisted and jacked up, and I couldn't exercise my way out of it. I couldn't find doctors who had any clue that this was structural and nutrition related or toxicity related because of the, crap food I was eating. So that really landed me at a chiropractor.
So you shunned traditional medicine, Western medicine, because it wasn't working, and you looked for an alternative source.
I did.
The illegitimate medicine that
Right.
chiropractic medicine is known as. I speak volumes about my chiropractic experience as well.
Yeah.
So let's continue down here. So detox is what we're going to talk about today. So it's such a buzzword. Why do you think there's so much confusion around what detoxing actually is?
Well, there's part of the challenge is that we are in a society, if we can appreciate the context we're in, we have so many shiny objects marketed to us because we have post-enlightenment specialized into kind of a doctor for every body part and a pill for every ill. And we've taken the medical approach of pharmakia, which is literally means witchcraft, and you find a potion to treat a symptom. And we have done the same thing with supplements. We'll be natural and we'll use nutrients instead of poisons, but we've kind of just done a different version of biochemical whack-a-mole. And so everybody has their shiny object. There's the latest, greatest darling of the detox world that comes out every few months and has its heyday and then kind of fades. And what we have lost is the complexity of biology. And we've taken this reductionist approach to trying to fix the human. And as if, the analogy I make is that trying to come up with a biochemical solution to a toxicity problem is similar to asking the government to come up with a cure for crime. There's just too many variables. We have to go cut off the toxicity for one, and then we have to respect and appreciate that the body's trying to detox all the time. It's not like it's only happens when we schedule it. And so we need to work with the systems of the body to do the work and appreciate the time frames it has for healing. But instead, what we see marketed are the outlier stories of somebody who, I don't know, swallowed a bunch of methylene blue or put this one patch on their body or took this pill, and suddenly all my dreams came true and all I needed to do was find this one thing. And friends, that is not how detox or healing works. And there's a ton of complexity as to what these chemicals are doing in us and how to get them out of us. And so we can get into all that, but that's a short version of why it's so confusing today.
So your detox journey, you went to the chiropractor, he gave you some concepts, some ideas to detox one of them?
No, with exposing toxicity was more what he helped me with, and creating the awareness that this was a major problem. And the part I was toying with going back on medications to try to feel better, but he more or less talked me out of that and encouraged me to continue healing. But I realized that, wait, my food has got this. And he started teaching me about nutrition, and food you look at food, air, and water. Oh my gosh, it's everywhere, and no one in the world can get away from it.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's like raining down from the sky, literally.
I call it the chemical rain shower. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, once you realize you can't get away from it, then it becomes, well, how in the world do I get this stuff out of me? And so there's really two ways to think about it. There's where can I reduce the influx of burden or toxicity? And the major source of it's cleaning up your diet. Like if you don't get how shockingly toxic, in particular, school lunches or fast food is, it's not just like, that's not very healthy. No, it's rancid and toxic to the order, like orders of magnitude more toxic than you could imagine. And if you just look at the health statistics of where we have ballooned from disease burden or weight, the only thing that explains it at that speed is toxicity. So then it's about, okay, I've done a lot to cut off the influx. And then we really had to study what does it take to get these things out of you? Because so many of our downstream health issues came from the fact that we are burdened and these chemicals are interacting with each other, creating new synergies. And until we have a path to get them out without harming ourselves, we're going to have a hard time healing.
So let's talk about toxicity, right? What exactly, how would you define that?
Well, I've got basically two ways I think I've simplified it. So toxicity, really anything that poisons the body. Okay, so in that realm, we've basically got chemical toxicity and we've also got toxic thoughts. People don't give that as much weight, but we'll stick with chemical toxicity first. So one of the things the book, The 100-Year Lie, points out is that there have been roughly at that point 80,000 man-made, meaning new to nature molecules that had been invented. And we did not grow up with the biology to handle that. That's just an insult.
So let's real quick here. Let's set a timeline. 1906, right?
Pure Food and Drug Act that basically birthed the FDA. Yes.
80,000 chemicals are in existence.
By 2006. Yes, worse
2006. Today. Okay.
Yeah.
So 1906, there was very few that existed.
Right.
What nitrates, nitrites, fertilizers. Right?
Well, they were experimenting in the late 1700s and 1800s. There was a lot of use of heavy metals, and they didn't always know, they didn't recognize the egregious body burden. So heavy metals is one of the big ones that's still with us today. It's the synthetic new to nature molecules that we got post the Pure Food and Drug Act. So it's not that poisons were not around us. Venoms were around before then. So there are plenty of things that can poison us. Malnutrition is the other big link. So there's toxicity and malnutrition. Those are basically the two main reasons we get sick. But knowing that, okay, there's some that we're just going to interact with because of industry, and there's others that we are blindly lathering on us or ingesting or breathing. So it's a big picture and it's vast. And so we just had to step back and say, okay, what are we trying to do? We're trying to get anything out of the body that poisons it. Okay, what poisons it? So it's not a long list. It's chemicals, it's natural substances, it's toxic thinking. It can be electromagnetic poisoning. Like if I get enough magnetism or electricity going through your body, I promise you're going to feel it and you won't like it.
You're not saying that the phone is dangerous, are you?
Well, I'd say don't keep it in your pocket. You don't want it near your fellas or your bra. Don't wear your phone. That's a radiation funnel on your body. So let's not do that. There's prudent measures we can take. But once you get here's the sources of it, then it's like, well, how does the body get them out? And once you start answering that question, it feels less complicated because we're not relying on a treatment mindset, which says, find chemical, swallow a different chemical in order to get it out. We're saying, how does the body get rid of this? And it's about, now we got to empower the body to do what it does. And sure enough, it comes back to some of the most basic health habits we all need to be practicing. It's not rocket science to drink water and move and breathe and sweat and poop and so on in order to get these to the exits. But we have to have something that binds them and manage a process so that we can heal. So I may have rabbit trailed off your great question, but there you have it.
That's fine, man. You're doing great. So we're talking detox. We're talking chemicals, destructive thoughts. So let's talk about, if I came to you or some layman, what are some of the common mistakes people make when they try to start a detox program?
Well, one of the biggest ones is starting at the wrong place and perceiving that they are even ready to detox. So one of the analogies I like to use is if you're trying to build a boat or a house or whatever, and you've got rotten wood, but you're trying to find the best screws you can to hold it together, it's not going to work. So we want to make sure the lifestyle supports detoxification. Another way to say that is if your exits are clogged because of your lifestyle, trying to start with what do I need to swallow to get things out of me? You might just be retoxing and making yourself feel worse because we have to get the purging systems to be efficient. And that process can take a while.
So you mentioned exits being blocked. What are the exits you're referring to here?
Easy. So that could be that you're not very hydrated and you're not peeing much. You are never sweating. You don't poop. I can't tell you the number of people I'm surprised who don't poop at least once a day. Hopefully you're pooping twice a day, maybe even 3 times. Like that exit is paramount. It's the biggest bulk that comes out of you. And if you're just rotting feces in your colon, the average person apparently has 7 to 11 pounds of impacted like calcified feces in there, just sitting there poisoning you. So sometimes we have got to do the work to get that exit moving efficiently. So that obviously another one that people don't think of often is thoughts. And those get detoxified by you replace them with truthful and hopeful and life-giving stories. If that's in place, you're not poisoning yourself with your thoughts. You're moving, you're sweating. Purging through your skin is a real thing. If your body can't get things out the other traditional exits, your orally or through the back end, it's going to send it out through your skin. So if you got skin rashes, hives, those sorts of issues, it's like, okay, this cannot stay in the blood. I have to get it out. And you're going to have symptoms that you think are some sort of autoimmunity or other things, when it's really your body is trying to push toxicity out so you can stay alive. So there are several exits it has.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier the one shot kind of offers that are out there. Take a pill, do this, do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you tell the difference between a gimmick that really doesn't work and one
Mm-hmm.
that actually does work?
Often it's the duration of it. So there's a lot of them that are like, cleanse your body in 3 days or 7 days and do this 14-day. And you can drink your juice out of a plastic bottle, or you can do this really fancy packaging. You can drink your juice out of a wine bottle. It looks sexy. It's wow, look at that. That must work because the packaging is so cool and they have a really cool Zen person on their website, or they have a really fancy set of science that looks impressive. And so real detox is going to take a while. I mean, a month on the short end and more like 3 to 6, depending on how toxic you are. So that's one thing you can look at. But if it is just almost exclusively swallow thing, we looked at a lot of different detox guides to build our courses. And what it came back to was I actually ended up putting it in a pie chart to represent what I had found. And it was 95% things you can swallow, and kind of a hat tip to like, you should probably drink some water and maybe don't be so negative and get some hyperbaric oxygen once in a while. And there's, it's mixed on which other thing besides swallow stuff that gets mentioned. But most of what is sold is not a program to teach you to change what's created the problem and walk your body through a healing process. It's just sold to get you to swallow a few things and maybe don't eat so much sugar or cut out vegetable oils. We think of that as tidying rather than deep cleaning. It's great. Cut back on your sugar and maybe drink some juice, or swallow some powdered plants. But there's a big difference between that and deep internal scrubbing. And so we just teach the nuance and help people once you get your head around it and you've kind of metabolized that, no, this isn't going to be just 3 days or a week, and then I'll be detoxed and all of my dreams will come true. No, there's a real biology here. Your body knows how to do this, but we got to restart the engine gradually rather than aggressively for a lot of people, so that you don't make yourself feel worse and be like, that didn't work for me. It made me feel awful. Well, yeah, because you weren't ready. So get your starting line right, and then don't fall for the gimmicks of 95% just swallow our things. And what you start to find is, there's a lifestyle for this. There's a rhythm. You can't heal a broken bone in a week. So why would you expect a body to be able to detox in a week? There's a lot of tissue to heal if you've been toxic for a while. So it's some of those underpinnings that set people up really well to thrive in a well-curated, supervised detox that we take people through.
Yeah, I've come to believe that it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
Given the environment, et cetera, or everybody talks about, I want to eat organic food, but when you look at organic food and how many chemicals are in organic the process, it's like where can you go, right, to get away from this stuff? I have not yet found, other than some island somewhere, but even then you've got the environmental, airborne, et cetera, and water now.
Yeah.
How much of the ocean is now radioactive, because of the Japanese reactor, right?
Yeah. Saying the ocean. Yeah.
I wonder sometimes if we haven't crossed an edge, if you will, where we can't step back from it. Given the fact we've done this for how long now, right? And it doesn't seem like anybody's willing to take the necessary steps to start to clean up, other than removing the plastic from the ocean. But I digress. So let's talk about some detox strategies that aren't well known but really effective.
Oh, there's a few. Some of them I actually will get censored if I mention. It's shocking that some of the things in the detox world that are potent, powerful, aren't smiled upon by the powers that be. And so the alternative world really took a hit. I'm getting to answer your question, but I want to set up why it's harder to find.
Not a problem.
Yeah. the alternative world took a major hit about 2018, 2019, where pretty much everything that wasn't mainstream pharmaceutical medicine got delisted from the search engines. You just watch your monthly visits fall off a cliff. Nobody could find us anymore. And so that created a different world where and the search engines just went to everything pharma, medical, Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, it's Johns Hopkins. You can't, it's hard to find stuff, which if you want to go that rabbit hole, opens up a different series of questions like who's in charge here? And who's the ministry of truth that gets to decide what's effective? So there's been so many really good, promising, or effective treatments or modalities that haven't seen the light of day or never went mainstream because you're not allowed to talk about it publicly. Somebody went to jail last year for one that I know of in July for promoting something that really helps people heal. And it's documented, but that's a no-no. So some of the things, I don't want your show to get canceled, so I'll be careful about it. But there are things like algae that are impressive on a number of levels that we can talk about that do have great binding or even nourishing properties that can be super effective. Herbs and plant medicines have been long lost and forgotten. And so a good herbalist or traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, where that's what the Chinese use. They use needles and the plant kingdom. They found the herbs over hundreds or thousands of years that seem to be effective for empowering the body to perform a particular way. And they took a whole plant rather than a molecule within a particular substance and packaged it the way nature did. So there are lots of great things you can swallow, and we could even get into the properties of water and what makes it able to just keep toxins from even being able to enter your, they don't make it out of the water. They're somehow the water can protect you. So there are amazing things of that nature, but there also are a lot of healing modalities that rev up the body's ability to heal. And what our Western thinking is, because of the Flexner report, Rockefeller medicine from the early 1900s, 1910 in particular, what that birthed was chemistry is the answer to everything. And chemistry is just a subset of biophysics. Biophysics has electricity and magnetism and heat and light and motion and chemistry. And when you look at the complexity of biophysics, that's why the government creating a cure for crime is ridiculous. The same thing with biology. If you approach biology through a chemistry lane, you're woefully inadequate to ramp up the body's healing capability. But once you understand, wait a minute, there's something healing about electricity or magnetism or motion and light and sound and so on are relevant in the healing puzzle, then you're free to explore so many other things that you typically will not hear about on the news or at your doctor's office. And for now, we still live under this, the shine has definitely come off the halo of the medical system, but that still tends to be the place people go first. Like, oh, I got to figure this out. I need to talk to MD. And often they're the worst people to talk to because they're not trained in any of the other modalities outside their chemistry lane or their cut parts of your body out lane. Yeah. So, anyway, I can there's so many. If you want to ask about specific ones or have me push me to mention some others, I will.
No. I mean, I have a sneaky suspicion this is a topic of conversation that we could talk about for at length, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the censorship. You're familiar with John Rife and the Rife machine?
Yeah, that's another big one. Yeah, not allowed to talk about that.
And people have no clue, right? Because the MMA, right, the 900-pound gorilla, shut it down. And it's amazing that this guy built a machine that you could look at atoms. I forget how before electron microscopes were around, he could look at diseases, right?
Yeah.
And AMA stepped in. The guy who was running the AMA didn't like Rife and shut him down. And today there's supposedly some machines out there, but they don't have the original design blueprint or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, how much more of this stuff have we lost because of
so much?
I don't want you to interfere with what I'm doing. I worked for a pharmaceutical firm. It's now called Pfizer. Back then it was called Warner Lambert Park Davis. And everything stems from plants. All medicine stems from plants. Aspirin comes from, was it the birch trees? And everything, there's a molecule out there in nature that they take and then they morph, genetically engineer, etc., into a medicine. All medicines have side effects. They don't cure, they just treat symptoms. And yet look how big of an industry the pharma, chemical, medical industries are.
Well, they were birthed by and are sustained by monopolists who wanted to find predictable things that could be built at spec and sold repeatedly to billions or at scale with millions of people on them for life, which is why they don't go after curing, because that you lose a customer if they get well. You need people on this indefinitely. And it's recognizing the system is built of, by, and for monopolists that you can start to go, oh, maybe I should explore some other things. And
Yeah, I became huge when I was working there. Cholesterol, right? Everybody would tell
gosh,
you cholesterol is bad for you, right? I would eat a dozen hard-boiled eggs back in my bulking days. I would sit there at break and open up my carton of eggs and start eating them. Down the hall was the Lipitor study going on, and they would, Dave, you got to see the aortas that from these rabbits, because they were using rabbits, feeding them a corn oil diet, natural, right? A natural diet for rabbits, and they're having these clogged arteries and stuff, and showing me that this is, well, dude, you're feeding them a natural diet. And that's when the light bulb started going off in my head that maybe this is not something I want to be involved with anymore.
good for you for having the courage to, that's a bold step. It's like a career move. It's an ethical move. I love that. Well done.
Yeah, that and I worked in what was called the animal care department. Quote unquote, I was a poop kicker. Of course, we use a different term. And the mistreatment of the animals. I'm a big animal lover, and watching these guys and gals mistreat the animals, just they would. Well, I don't know. Again, not sure if I should say stuff because somebody might come after my ass. But yeah, I witnessed mistreatment, and there was no need for it, right? People, because of they get angry, a rat would bite them. They'd walk over because the rat was on a study. They'd walk over to another cage, take a rat out, kill it. And because this rat bit me, can't take him out of the study, but I can wreak my vengeance on this. What? I mean, it's a dumb animal, man. But I digress anyway. So let's talk about chronic illnesses. So
Okay.
I come to you, I have a chronic illness. What does a holistic detox program look like in terms of diet, lifestyle, mindset, and what else?
I love the question. Okay. For us, where we start is just what we call holistic triage. So when we're listening to you, we're listening to the story of your life or your symptoms or whatever you perceive to be relevant, but we're also listening to the subtext. We're listening to the emotional charge with which you tell things. We're listening for the relational, logistical elements of your life, not just find symptom, identify it, find treatment, prescribe it. Like that's very old school and ineffective. So we like to say we coach the whole human. So we look at mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual in figuring out where you start. And often, maybe even most of the time, the biggest upstream obstacles people have are in the mental, emotional realm. They're in the, I don't believe in myself. I don't feel like I have what it takes. I don't feel worthy. I feel like even if I do this, what's the point? Who cares? Why bother? And I don't know if I can even stick with this for very long. Those types of stories that we tell ourselves can be, I'm listening for that tone or those types of stories in someone's journey, recognizing, and I've gotten skilled over the years at being able to ask the question that kindly points that out and see what willingness they have. So we tend to just collect people who are at the precipice of ready to realize they can do hard things, that they will always have the support they need. So we look at their diet, we look at are they pooping? We look at their movement, we look at their stress levels, and we look at basically the context of the real life that someone is in. Are you married with, like me, with 6 kids and you have a lot of complexity? Are you a retiree who has all the time in the world? And there are very different scenarios that we want to account for because we don't want to give somebody the wrong starting line or be too aggressive. And so we can tailor what they can handle. Sometimes it's just like one of my Whopper transformation story. The first thing I did was just, all I took away was Diet Mountain Dew. And we started there. Blood sugar dropped amazingly. His cardiologist or doctor had no clue that artificial sweetener impacted blood sugar. I'm like, well, now he didn't know. But so sometimes it's just simple. We just need to get in there at one layer at a time. And there are some people who are primed to be able to run quickly because they're relatively healthy. They eat well, they move, they have healthy relationships, and they're just starting to feel their age. Their body's breaking down a little bit. They realize they want to get in front of this, but they're high capacity, highly motivated people. Well, that's a very different starting point than the overweight, diseased, emotionally fragile, not confident person. So we pinpoint their starting line holistically by those four things: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. And we come from a Christian perspective for what that's worth. And we just help people figure out, of all the places we could start, why and where. And it's a collaborative process. We call it down to agreement, like this is it. And then we have a really robust support to make sure they'll never be able to have the excuse, I didn't have enough support. Like, no, you have plenty, and plenty to track, plenty to measure and look at, to adapt, so we can figure out what's really happening here. And it's a fun, transformative journey, but it is work. It takes guts to do it.
So how do you keep someone motivated? Just by support? You have a support group that they join? I mean, because I know motivation for most people, we do something for a short period of time and then we give up
Yes.
because we're not seeing immediate results, right?
Yeah,
So,
boy, oh boy, is that a predictable thing? Yes, we've come to call that the knowing doing problem. There's a predictable element where motivation's high for a week or two or a month, and then it seems to go missing. And some of that is we preemptively help people prepare for that, so they know, oh yeah, Christian said this was going to happen. And here's the part where I'm kind of in the funk. But part of what we do is I realize I can't motivate anyone. The best I can do is help them find their underpinnings of motivation and fan those flames, because what motivates one person is different than what motivates another. And so it's as much in the purpose questions. It's as much in the, why are you even here? What is the golden ticket at the end of all this hard work? And it's the frequency of kind reminders and kind of reorienting them back to why they started, with the brass tacks of here's what it takes to change. Yep. Like any journey, it's got twists and turns and things you didn't expect. You get your occasional flat tire or your, weird look from somebody that puts you in a funk for a while. Those happen, but it's not the end of the story. And one of the things that's been significantly helpful for people is helping them break up with the all or nothing fallacy. We have this weird predictable. We go through 7 fallacies in one of our courses, and it's the one that typically stands out the most. It's this weird, I'm all in. I'm going to do everything, and I won't miss a day. I'm going to work out every day. I'm going to be perfect with the diet. And then as soon as they miss one, they're like, screw it. I knew I couldn't do it. I'll just do nothing. Like, as if those are the only 2 options we have, perfection or nothing at all. And it's silly when you think of it, but I'll submit to the listener that the only progress they've ever made at anything they've ever put their hand to is imperfect progress. And when it's okay to not be perfect, to go, okay, so I ate the cookie. That doesn't mean I have to eat another one, or skip my workout today, or like it. So sometimes we just need a few key phrases and principles and touch points to know, oh, he's going to ask me about this. And it's knowing that someone else cares is why we do anything that we do. It's funny to me when people say, I don't care what other people think. I'm like, baloney. Yeah. Everything we do is because we care what other people think. Now we can get neurotic and weird about that, or we can just accept it that we're so much more motivated when we feel like someone else cares, or someone else's life will be better if I show up at my best, if I do this thing. And I exist not just to sit on the beach and take up space. I exist to help people. If we can't have something to do, someone to love, and something to hope for, then we're going to flounder. But as soon as we have that something to do and people to love and people that care about us and a mission that feels like, you know what, I'm making a dent in that injustice. Motivation finds its way back in.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in getting people to understand what the compound effect is all about, right? Mm-hmm. As well as a series of small steps.
Yeah.
Rome wasn't built in a day, but you keep moving down the road. Sure, you're going to step back, but keep stepping forward, and you will get there. It may take a little more time than you expect, or it may not. Everybody's different. So you mentioned 7 fallacies that you have to debunk. Can you elaborate a little bit more on those?
I sure can. Yeah. So the one of the big ones is the silver bullet fallacy. People they're searching for, there's got to be this one thing I haven't found that I can swallow yet. There's this one practitioner, there's a specialist, which I've come to call partialists now because they look at a part of the problem. But there's got to be just one thing I haven't found, and when I find it, everything will change. No, there are so many ways to do things, and there's not just one thing out there that if you could swallow it, it will change your life. So that's the first one. The next one is what I call the minimum payment fallacy. It's this idea that, what's the least I have to do in order to get the benefit? Like, it's just like, if you approached your marriage that way, or your finances that way, or your job, like, where does that serve you? Where can I just kind of coast and not have to do much? you don't make significant gains with that mentality. You certainly won't pay off a credit card with a minimum payment. Like you have to make concentrated payments and aggressive effort at some point. So the lottery ticket fallacy, or the lottery ticket kind of the extreme measure fallacy, is another big one. Like if I could just do this one extreme thing, like a bypass surgery, I can go to a major healing retreat, I can go on The Biggest Loser, I can something way out of the norm. I can just kind of skip the process, and then I won't have to worry about all this hard work thing. And that is one of the toughest ones for people, because the bill comes due at some point. If you do the lottery ticket, let's say the bypass surgery, most people gain the weight back. Same thing happens in The Biggest Loser. And that is even more painful because I did the extreme thing and it didn't work. And what happened was you never became the kind of person who could sustain that lifestyle. You just tried to take a shortcut, and that it comes to bite you. So that's the third one that I think I mentioned earlier, was the rotten wood, expensive screws fallacy. Like, if the wood's rotten, your lifestyle's rotten. If you're an underslept, pessimistic, dehydrated, undernourished couch potato, it's probably not going to matter what you swallow. We've got to get the wood to work, and then the lifestyle, then the screws help. Another one is what I call the top-down fallacy. That's the idea that if I just do a detox, it'll fix the reason I got so sick in the first place. No, you have to go to the base. You have to work on the foundation. Otherwise, you're just in this loop of constant flare-ups and, tidying up a little bit. You feel a little better, and then you slide back down, and you just never get well. So, and then the last one that I haven't mentioned is the up and to the right fallacy. It's this not expecting the journey to have switchbacks. So thinking that every day is going to be a little bit better and a little bit better, and I won't have any days where real change is looks like a stock market chart. It bounces up and down on its way up. And when you can appreciate that real change is like an upward spiral, you're going to go around, you're going to go to the next floor, and then you're going to walk around and it's flat. It's climb, plateau, and climb again. Most people climb, plateau, get frustrated, slide back down, and start the first climb again. Yep. And once it clicks that this won't be up and to the right, I will have 2 steps forward and a step back, and 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. Then it's not defeating. And then the last one was the all or nothing. And those two often go together because they're mindset, they're expectation problems. And when we clear them, it's so much easier to brace for impact of a change journey, to say, I'm in this for the person that I can become, not to see how fast I can get heavy metal out of my body. It's a different gear to say, what would it take me to be consistent for a year or 3 months or whatever? It's a very different question than how fast can I get the weight off? How fast can I detox? I want to know what it would take for me to be consistent. If you're fascinated by that puzzle, sign me up for more of those people, because I can change their life dramatically usually. But that's why we have coaches. We're teachers by nature. We are investigators. We're watching you in the arena, helping you see what you can't see when you're in the fight, and we mirror it back to you. So the next time you run the next play, you're a little bit smarter and smart. And it's an iterative process. And so we just work by clearing as much of those obstacles as we can preemptively, and then reminding them of what we taught them originally.
So you mentioned a couple of times there of success with your clients. Can you give us the biggest success that you've witnessed in your 20 years?
Yeah. One of my favorite stories is I had a guy who wrote me a brutally honest email at the wee hours of the morning. So this was like 2 or 3 in the morning. He writes me this email, long, just laying out his story. And I didn't know it at the time, but he was planning his own suicide. He was trying to figure out where to take himself so his family didn't have to clean up the mess. And his list of symptoms was huge. He used to weigh over 500 pounds. He had raging diabetes. So he had a black toe that they were about to cut his toe off. He had oozing sores all over his body. He was on 13 medications when I met him, and had crippling pain and awful sleep. So you don't get much further down in the look up to see the bottom realm. That was my biggest whopper story. So fast forward, not only did he not take his life, he has his toe, his oozing sores have all healed. He is now medication free. Holy cow. Has it been a fight, a slugfest to wean off and get to the, I don't need these. Part of it's like, what if anything happens to supply chains? Am I dependent on this? This could be ugly. So there's a motivation, and he now has a grandkid he never would have met.
Oh, wow.
So he has been able to earn his way back to health and slug it out. And we had to put in place the mindset pillars. We had to put in place the expectation management and really let go of the up and to the right. There's days when you push your body and it pushes back. And you're like, oh, there's a real limit here. It's going to take me a while to get over that. But some of it, we had to change his schedule and his thinking. Like, bless his heart, he was getting up at 4 a.m. to drive someone to work who couldn't afford a car.
How old was the guy at the time?
In his mid 60s.
Wow.
So yeah, it's what's a testament to grit and to stick-to-itiveness. It's a testament to how capable the body is at changing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 60 years, and I'm guessing the majority of that time was doing all the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
Very consistent, demonstrates, I mean, to me, outsider looking, demonstrates to me that if he can commit, he has all the tools necessary to make the changes and to change his life.
Yeah. And in many ways we all do. And we limit ourselves. I differentiate limiting beliefs and poisonous beliefs. All of us have limiting beliefs. Like, who knew you could get seafood at a steakhouse? Like, sure, if you can. Like, but there's bigger things where we poison our outcome and we cut off options because we tell ourselves a crappy story, and our cells literally hear that and they shut down. And we feel the effects of a sour mood in our body. And one of my clients said to me a couple of years ago, gosh, hope has been so good for my energy levels. She needed a better story. She needed a believable path and a frame of reference that someone like her, or even worse than her, was capable of change, and the paradigm shifts of reasonable expectations and a clear path, like step by step. Like, we're not trying to eat the whole elephant today. We're going to one bite at a time here. And that, to your point, the compound effect of those small, seemingly insignificant choices does add up. You just have to stick with it. And his transformation wasn't rapid. It took him many years. He got probably the first 200 pounds off before I met him. I was tasked with the hard part of getting the last 100 pounds off of him. So, but he had gone as far as he could go by himself, and he just needed a coach to tip him over the edge, and somebody that would listen and believe in him and help him. You don't get to be that situation and that overweight without a lot of emotional things that have happened to you in your life. And he would tell you whatever emotional state he was in, food was the answer. Happy, food. Sad, food. Depressed, food. Lonely, food. And so we had to detach emotion and food and find other things that made life sweet and worth it. And just sometimes you had to rally and be like, this sucks, but I'm going to keep doing it. Yeah. And he did. So there's a testimony video of him on our website.
Yeah, kudos. I'll have to check that out. So a couple more things here. I want to touch base on your Healing United private association.
Yeah. So a private membership association, we realized we needed to do that for some of the reasons I already mentioned, because the powers that be give us a fight when we try to go heal people. They do not appreciate that because the monopolists don't want competition. So we set up a private membership association based on a state constitution that says we as citizens are allowed to meet in private and talk about whatever we want. And so that's a way that we protect ourselves. You become a member of our private membership association when you become a customer. And that protection, if we ever get pushback from the powers that we can actually play offense and say, you're actually infringement of the Constitution, and we have a right to a private conversation. So a PMA, they're set up specifically for that reason. They have more flexibility than nonprofits and typical corporate setups. So that is why we set it up that way. And then that lets us, doctors and coaches, we can collaborate now on off-the-record conversations and treat you like we would a family member or a friend, and we can just have an honest conversation. So that's some of the upside. And really, it's been fun because this started, I was asked to help weigh in on how to help people who had adverse events from the COVID shots. And like, you look at, oh my gosh, the complexity of that. There's just this month, there was a study that came out and said they found 55 undisclosed chemicals in 6 different brains. Like, it's ridiculous biochemical whack-a-mole. So we had to step back and say, how do you detox? But the membership association, it was a meeting of the minds to say, what are you seeing? What are you learning? COVID did a funny number on the health world because it brought down some of the walls between professions and humbled a lot of doctors. A lot of them didn't get humbled, but many of them did. And they became more interested in talking to naturopaths or chiropractors or coaches like me. And to see that none of us are as smart as all of us. And there's beauty and more minds weighing in on similar challenges because we just think differently. And it's been fun to be welcomed into the room and esteemed by doctors now as having perspective and skills that they just can't offer. And so that's why we set up Healing United, to be able to bridge this gap and hopefully just demonstrate a better model for healthcare. It doesn't have to be what we've known.
So I want to conclude the show with one last question for you. So if any of the listeners here wants to start a detox program, what's the
Mhm.
very first step that they should take
Well,
besides reach out to you?
yeah, besides reaching out to us, I guess I would say inventory as best you can your toxic inputs and your basic health habits. If you're have a long list of I know I should do it, but I'm not, you got to start there. If you're not moving and pooping and breathing and sweating and eating don't try to detox if your lifestyle is not going to support it. You're just going to end up with a retox where you're going to go around in a loop of flare-ups and probably waste a heck of a lot of money. There's so much waste in that detox world. So if it's those two things, cut off the input and unburn your body. I've got a podcast where I've covered a lot of these topics to help people just see through, have their wisdom like, oh, it was hiding there. I didn't know that about myself. And so educate yourself would be the short answer to your question, I guess.
Okay. I'll make sure I drop a link to the podcast
Okay, great.
show description. So I'm gonna in the show here, Christian, I want to thank you very much for showing up.
Yeah.
I've learned some stuff, and I'm always open to learning new stuff, and I'm always surprised how much new stuff there is out there to learn, right?
There is, yes.
But thanks again for your time. Much appreciate it. And my listeners, end of another show. We'll be seeing you guys shortly. Thanks very much. Have a great day. Bye for now. If you want to chat with Christian, the detox wizard behind today's episode, you can reach him at christian@truewholehuman.com. And while you're at it, don't forget to check out his website, www.healingunited.today/home, for some mind-blowing detox resources and tips. Remember, whether you're trying to dodge detox gimmicks or simply wanting to improve your health, Christian's your go-to guy.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Brain Gut Connection podcast. Stay connected with us directly through www.braingutconnect.com. You can also join the discussion on Instagram @BrainGutConnection and YouTube. If you would like to speak with us, please send us an email to dave@braingutconnect.com. And as always, thank you for listening. This concludes the most thought-provoking portion of your day. Until next time, stay happy, healthy, and educated.